Please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Welcome back. We still have a minute for the opening rates to kick in. Prakash, Axis will be on everyone's radar.
So, yeah, I mean...
it's risen about 11% this month. July.
Yeah, but I think this is this probably will indicate that Axis is the next big move that you could expect on the corporate lender side. I mean, everything seems to be with a sense of finality in terms of the repair. And remember, Axis is demonstrating something which you would have expected after Shikha Sharma would have handed over to somebody and this process would have started, but it's already happening now. So my sense is you could probably see improvement going forward very quickly. And all corporate lenders will be in a better position to, they will have to be in a better position to get into market share gains as compared to the PSUs. So, the PSUs are still, some of them are still blinking. I mean, you had central bank and some numbers that very clearly indicate that. So, there is a time for ICICI, Axis, to say yes to everything that PSUs leave.
Okay, 15 seconds to go. We had Escorts numbers yesterday during market hours, but the numbers looked really good.
Yes.
You expect more upsides there?
Yeah, I think...
more upsides there?
Yeah, I think two things that I just want to leave you with in terms of what's good about these numbers in terms of the internals. One is the railway business is much more significant than what we thought, and they're talking about that growing 20%. Great news. The second is the margin expansion that they've done in that is significant, and the market share gains on the agri equipment this thing. Yeah. Probably that's at the cost of our favorite VST tillers, because they've been losing, these guys have been growing, and nobody else is coming in terms of competition. So Escorts definitely, I think it's today you'd probably see a much more deeper re-rating begin for that.
Okay, but we are looking at Axis at the moment. And, well, I'm not seeing any fireworks at it. Okay, there is fireworks, 2% higher. But let's wait and see. It's just 2%. But seeing Bajaj, Finserv, ONGC, Aisha is starting in the green. I don't think people have digested most of the news, so let's just wait. Now Bajaj is blinking red and green, red and green. The Bajaj twins, that is Finserv and Finance. The rupees opened marginally weaker. And that's largely because crude prices are reaching out to 75. Although they are off the highs of the last 24 hours, they are still closer to 75, and that's probably giving a little bit of a jig to the currency. We're still waiting for some reactions. Now Axis is climbing to 3.5%, and the decliners are Ultratech and M&M. But maybe we want to put up now Avenue Supermart, maybe Indigo. Those are the other stocks that we should be looking at. Idea Cellular is starting 2.5 lower. That's again a difficult set of numbers. Indigo is down 10%.
Yeah. In fact, not just Indigo, but I just want to take a look at what's going to happen with Jet Airways and SpiceJet, because Indigo, being the market leader, is seeing an EBITDA loss. Then I hesitate to think what would happen really with Jet Airways and Spice.
Spice might not get so impacted because Spice is actually the guy who would gain with all this happening for Indigo. And Jet with 1,000 crores debt, yes, with the EBITDA, negative EBITDA, difficult.
Okay, in fact, Interglobe Aviation had a conference call yesterday. They've reported a shocker this quarter, as we said, weak operational performance. The profits are down 96%. Let's listen in from the management themselves on what the future could look like for the company.
The NEOs continue to have issues resulting in a couple of parts wearing out sooner than they should, and we are not happy about the situation. Pratt & Whitney and Airbus are working on fixing these issues. We remain cautiously optimistic and hope these issues are resolved at the earliest. In the interim, we continue to rely on adequate availability of spare engines to keep the aircraft flying. However, sporadically, we do face shortages and some planes have been temporarily grounded. We expect the situation with the spare engines to improve in the current quarter. The fares continue to be lower in the quarter compared to the same period last year. We do not believe that these fare levels are sustainable, especially given the increase in input costs. Clearly, with industry load factors in the high 80s or 90s, the industry is turning away passenger demand at current fare levels, but we have no choice but to keep our fares competitive. Our profits for the quarter were adversely impacted primarily by depreciation of the Indian rupee, increase in fuel prices, continued pressure on yields, and increase in our maintenance costs.
Although we're under a lot of pressure from costs and sort of this weak revenue environment, we still think the long-run strategy that we're pursuing is really the right strategy. And we're going to sort of quickly build up our network. We're going to make a broad network in a lot of markets that's deep with frequencies where we need them. And we think that that's clearly the right long-term strategy for not only passengers but our shareholders. So, again, I guess in summary, yeah, there's a lot of short-term pressures, but we think we're well positioned, and we're taking a long-term view that's going to be really the right strategy for shareholders.
Okay, the price war is at its peak, but the management, as you just heard, will continue to focus on market share at the cost of profitability. Manisha Gupta is here with us to give us a quick roundup on all that's happening in the commodity space this morning. Hi, Manisha. Good morning.
Morning, and thank you so much for that. As you were rightly mentioning, it really is the crude oil prices which the markets would want to watch at. We did see 2% gains overnight, and that was because of the global inventories which were holding around 2017 highs actually have continued to taper off. It is also to do with the crude outages in Canada that would mean lower supplies coming into US, and those were the couple of factors which supported. And then came the OPEC report, which shows that their output for the month of July has been the highest in 2018, 70,000 barrels of an increase, and that has led to nearly 30.69 barrels per day for the month of July, and that really brought the prices slightly on the weaker side. Apart from that, it also has to do with the Chinese PMI data, which has come in weaker month on month at 51.2 for the month of July. That also seems to be putting pressure across commodities. So you have seen a weak beginning for crude, down by 0.25%. You also have weakness coming for the base metal prices, which anyway seem to be closing the month of July on a negative. But today, the last day of July, also has started weak for this sector.
Okay, thank you very much for that. A little bit of weakness in crude doesn't hurt us, but at the moment actually closer to 75. So maybe that's putting some pressure. The yields have opened just 1 basis point higher, but psychologically 7.8. And then we are running into a monetary policy. So that also could be a drag for the banks. We don't know. It's not a very big drag, 7.8. We have seen 7.99 and even 8 traded not so long ago. But nevertheless, just putting it on the table that yields are a little higher. Again, the important stocks are Axis, which is up about 2%, and Idea, which is down 2%. Indigo, again, for good measure, we will have to put on the table. That started with a 10% cut. We'll have to see whether it continues with that kind. Okay, that's Idea Cellular. Pull up Indigo for you. Okay, it's still down 10%. JSPL, the numbers were not bad, and Gujarat Gas numbers were good. Those are the other two stocks which perhaps, no, GSPL, sorry, not JSPL. GSPL is, this is the Gujarat Gas, up 2.5%, good numbers.
Yes, good numbers there. Avenue Supermart's actually rising now.
Oh, yes.
So up almost about 2% on the back of very good numbers. It's still up almost 40% this year. So Darshan, you know, you've been saying that you should buy into quality names, stocks that have been hitting new highs will continue to do so. What about Avenue Supermarts? For a long-term investor and a trader, how to approach that one now?
Well, for a long-term investor, it's still a buying opportunity. We cannot imagine where some of these stocks will be after 3 years. For a trader, you have to wait for that dip, and it may or may not come, but I wouldn't buy if there is no dip.
Fair point. Don't buy if there is no dip. GSPL had a very strong set of numbers. That was the one that was higher than the poll. Gujarat Gas, let me just correct, largely in line numbers. Okay, any of the other numbers that you wanted to talk about, Prakash? Smaller numbers that may have impressed you?
No, I think, you know, when I was looking at DMart and the kind of commentary that surrounds the, you know, the optimism around this whole space, I was trying to extrapolate this possibility with what Shoppers Stop could do. Finally, after years of slumber, it's like awakening, and you know, it was always a pioneer in this retail space. Got left out somewhere in the cold, and the rest of them rushed ahead. It's not into groceries as much as these guys, I agree, but the kind of formats that they're now expanding into, that could be. And there's been a change in management, and you can feel and see the veritable change in the stores when you go, in terms of, you know, what they're displaying, what kind of product lines they're selling. And the Amazon sales process has incorporated wholeheartedly all Shoppers Stop private labels, which is going to be a very big change for them. So I think incrementally, if any improvement happens, Shoppers Stop could probably be a dark horse of sorts. And of course, this is not a small company, but Shree Cement, if you want to, I don't know if you had a chance to discuss the numbers.
Yeah.
That's also been
Please go ahead.
very, very positive, because what seems like happening is the northern part has not had a price, ability to pass on price hikes. Southern India has been slightly better, but it's the demand and volume growth in the central part which is looking very promising.
But the margins were under a lot of pressure.
Margins have been under pressure because these guys use pet coke as they are the biggest users for that as fuel as well as raw material. But I think the smaller rung players, the Dalmia Bharats of the world, maybe a Kakatiya, maybe a Sagar Cement, these are the guys who will probably now do much better than the Ultratech ACCs.
Okay, before the market opening, just wanted to quickly discuss what your view is on Tata Motors. I mean, it's up 0.5% now, but you think we are expecting the JLR margins to fall below the double-digit mark for the first time in 4 quarters. Yeah. You think that's in the price, or do you expect more pressure?
With Tata Motors, there's always more pressure. The time you believe that it's priced in, there's some negative news and it kind of overreacts. So I think it's not in the best of positions right now to counter any negativity. So if there is any negativity, and last time you had a one-off positive in the numbers, which you may not have this time. So the numbers could be a little bit of stretch. But I think overall, if you take the earnings away, Sonia, I think Tata Motors now seems to be in a spot where it could only do better. We've been talking about this at 360
for some
also.
time now. Yes.
Now it's 260. So I know it could still belie expectations, but. These things take time. It's a big balance sheet. It's a large global business we are talking about. And we've seen how Tata Global took so long to repair itself, right? So it's not something so easy.
It's still not performing in terms of EBITDA and revenues.
Yeah, but
there is a hope that
there is an element of repair. There's an element of change that's positive. So Tata Motors will also have to wait to go through that.
Okay. The markets are starting very, very tepid. Nifty down about 8 points and Sensex up 40. The Bank Nifty down 45. So that kind of cancels. Nothing much is happening because I think a great deal has happened over the last 3 days. So markets perhaps just catching their breath at this point in time. Even Axis stock, the numbers, positive on more counts than negative. And that stock is up 2%. But the point is it's already risen 11% this month. And therefore, perhaps some of the good news was anticipated. Ashwini, first, your big 9-10 call.
See, 9-10, I would like to go with VIP, which is a buy at a stop of 489 and target of 510. Overall, on the Bank Nifty, we are opening lower, minus 45. If we do minus 100, then I'm interested to buy. But today looks like a lot of sectors are in the red. So chances are early morning you could get, a buying opportunity closer to say 27,700 on Bank Nifty, and maybe yesterday's low of about 11,300. If we get these levels, you should buy intraday.
Any shorting strategies that you would have in the aviation space at all, Ashwini? Looks like these stocks are headed southwards this morning.
See, basically in this kind of a mood, you can get short, but these are, kind of cute trades because the market overall trend is on the upside, and Indigo has done badly over the last few months. 1,500 has become 1,000. So I'm not too keen on aviation. Okay.
All right. Axis Bank's now stuck at 2%, and I think the pre-opening trading time is over. Idea is one of the bigger losers. HP, BP, IOC also are starting lower. And so are banks like ICICI and HDFC Bank. HDFC Bank, of course, has got a minor dilution. I don't think that would have been normally a worry, but then private retail players are not the toast of the season, at least. Or at least the season is the last couple of weeks. HDFC is also starting lower, but people are worried about that, possible rise in NPLs in one category of loans.
Okay, I also wanted to ask Prakash about, this news flow about India imposing 25% safeguard duty on solar cells and the imports. So a lot of these domestic manufacturers like Indo Solar, Mozabe, etc. Would you have any view there?
Swelect.
But they're too small to really generate that kind of interest. But there's one company that makes solar glass, and that's a Borosil group company called Gujarat Borosil. Decent numbers. It's been a steady state performance of sorts for the last many quarters. There's been no negative surprises at least. And it is exclusively into this space. So the moment the space revs up, they are the ones who actually would be much more benefited than the full panel manufacturers.
The Piramal Group, right?
No, Gujarat Borosil is the Borosil Glassworks subsidiary.
Okay. We used to have Caraf's, Borosil.
Yeah, so that's the same
thing.
ownership.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. I would assume Borosil is the brand.
Yeah.
Well, still waiting for the markets to open and check out whether it's going to be as flat as this. There's a minute. Sudarshan, has anything moved into your radar now?
Yes, Power Grid for buying and BPCL for short selling. Short selling only intraday, but Power Grid also looks interesting as part of that PSU rally that is now visible.
Okay, two more stocks. Oberoi Realty actually is reacting well to its numbers, up almost about 3% over there. And on the downside, you have Idea Cellular after the operational performance. That one is under pressure. You like Oberoi Realty, Prakash?
Yes, so, I think it's playing catch-up, moved all the way back from 540 to about 460, 470. But the rental income bump up in the numbers yesterday, and year on year it's the spectacular growth. Of course, if you take the post demonetization impact aside, which wasn't as prevalent in the first quarter of last financial year, I think it's definitely a very good performance. So and their assets have started kind of yielding what we were always expecting them to. So positive, and it could continue to be positive.
Okay.